The air in the bedroom crackles, thick and charged, like the moments before a lightning strike. My gaze is fixed on the small, square box perched innocently on Mark's nightstand. It's a deep, rich blue, the kind of velvet that whispers of expense, of secrets. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. It's not my birthday. It's not our anniversary. It's not any occasion I can conjure that would warrant such a gift, especially one he hasn't mentioned, one he's left lying there as if it's nothing, or as if I'm nothing. A cold dread, sharp and unwelcome, begins to seep into my veins, chilling me from the inside out. My hand, trembling slightly, reaches for it. The texture of the velvet is plush, too plush. It feels wrong. If you've ever felt that sickening lurch of betrayal, that moment where the world tilts on its axis and nothing feels real anymore, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps more than you know. Just this morning, the sun streamed through our kitchen window, catching the steam rising from my coffee cup, painting everything in a deceptively warm glow. Mark hummed as he buttered his toast, a tune I didn't recognize. He kissed my forehead before he left for work, a quick, almost absent-minded peck. "Have a good day, love," he'd said, his voice already halfway out the door. Normal. Everything was aggressively, painfully normal. Or so I let myself believe. We've been married for 7 years. 7 years of building a life, a home. 7 years of shared laughter, whispered secrets in the dark, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone is there. We have the house with the slightly leaky faucet I keep meaning to fix, the mismatched armchairs we found at a flea market, the little rituals that weave a tapestry of U.S. Friday night movies with takeout, Sunday morning pancakes. The comfortable, predictable rhythm of a life I thought was solid, a life I thought was ours. I trusted him. Implicitly. Like I trust the sun to rise, or the floor to be solid beneath my feet. My salary as a graphic designer has always been the more stable one. His ventures as a freelance consultant are more feast or famine. So, my credit card, the one with the higher limit and the better rewards program, became our go-to for larger household expenses, for shared joys, for the things that built our shared life. It was a practical decision, one born of partnership, or so I believed. It never occurred to me to scrutinize the statements beyond a cursory glance. Why would I? It was our card for our life. The thought that it could be anything else was a shadow too dark to even contemplate. My desire was simple, a life of quiet happiness, of mutual respect, of growing old together. The white picket fence wasn't necessary, but the unwavering loyalty, that was non-negotiable. I thought we were on the same page. I thought the foundation we'd built was rock solid. I see now how naive that was, how easily the bedrock of trust can be eroded by unseen currents. The velvet box feels heavy in my hand, far heavier than its size would suggest. It's weighted with unspoken things, with the sudden, terrifying possibility of a life I don't recognize. I lift the lid. Nestled inside, against a bed of white satin, lies a necklace. It's delicate, gold, with a single, glittering diamond pendant. It's beautiful. It's expensive. And it's not for me. I know my own taste. I know the kind of jewelry Mark knows I like, understated, a little quirky, often silver. This is classic, elegant in a way that feels impersonal, chosen to impress rather than to delight someone specific. Or perhaps, to delight someone specific who isn't me. The name, Sophie's Fine Jewels, is embossed in tiny gold letters on the satin lining of the lid. I've never heard of it. A quick search on my phone confirms it's a high-end boutique downtown, the kind of place where prices are whispered, not displayed. The kind of place we've never frequented, not even for special occasions. The air punches out of my lungs. This isn't a surprise gift he's been hiding badly. This is something else. Something that makes the floor beneath my feet feel like quicksand. The first tremor of the earthquake that's about to demolish my world. My first instinct is to slam the box shut, to pretend I never saw it, to rewind the last 5 minutes and go back to the comfortable ignorance of this morning. but the image of the necklace is burned into my retinas. The glittering diamond seems to wink at me, a cold, knowing eye. I can't unsee it. I can't unknow it. I place the box back on the nightstand, exactly as I found it, my movements stiff, robotic. My mind races, a chaotic storm of questions and sickening possibilities. Who is it for? Why is he hiding it? And how did he pay for it? A new kind of dread, colder and sharper, pierces through the initial shock. Sophie's fine jewels. The name echoes in my mind. Our finances are intertwined, but certain luxuries, especially ones this significant, are always discussed. This wasn't. I reach for my laptop, my fingers fumbling on the trackpad. The shared credit card account. The one in my name. Statement after statement, usually just scanned for accuracy for bills paid for groceries and gas and the occasional dinner out. Now I scrutinize every line. My breath catches. There it is. A charge from Sophie's fine jewels dated 3 days ago. For an amount that makes my stomach clench. An amount that explains the exquisite, unwelcome sparkle in that blue velvet box. It's listed among our usual expenses, an alien entry in a familiar landscape. He didn't even try to hide it on a different card, a secret account. He used mine. Our card. The audacity of it steals my breath, leaves a bitter, metallic taste in my mouth. Did he think I wouldn't notice? Or worse, did he simply not care? The questions multiply, each one a fresh stab of pain. Sleep is a forgotten country that night. I lie beside him in the dark, the space between us a yawning chasm. His breathing is even, deep. He's asleep, untroubled, while my world is cracking apart. Every tick of the clock is a drumbeat marching me towards a confrontation I dread, yet crave. How do I even begin? Mark, who is the diamond necklace for? It sounds insane, even in the privacy of my own head. I imagine his face, confusion, then perhaps denial. He's always been a smooth talker, quick with an explanation, a deflection. I need more than just the necklace, more than just the charge. I need certainty, even though the certainty I'm seeking will likely destroy me. The next few days are a blur of forced smiles and hollow interactions. I watch him, a stranger wearing my husband's face. Every casual touch, every shared glance, feels like a betrayal. I'm an actress in my own life, playing the role of the unsuspecting wife. The effort is exhausting. I start digging. It's a quiet, desperate investigation conducted in stolen moments when he's showering or out for a run. His phone, once the mundane object, is now a Pandora's box I'm terrified to open. But I have to. His password is still our anniversary. The irony isn't lost on me. It feels like another tiny, cruel joke. My hands shake as I navigate through his messages, his call logs, his photo gallery. Looking for what? A name? A face? Confirmation of the ugly truth taking root in my heart. The initial searches yield nothing overtly damning. A casual text with friends, work emails. Then, a name I don't recognize. Chloe. A series of messages, innocuous at first glance. Lunch was great. Thinking of you. Can't wait to see you. But the frequency, the undertone of intimacy that I, his wife, can sense even in the sterile digital words, screams louder than any explicit confession. Chloe. Is she the one the necklace is for? The one he's buying expensive trinkets for, using my money, my credit, my trust as his personal piggy bank? The pieces click into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. The necklace isn't just a gift. It's a symbol of his deceit, purchased with the fruits of our shared labor, my financial stability. Each facet of that diamond reflects a different layer of his betrayal. My heart, already bruised, feels like it's being squeezed in a vice. The casual way he'd hummed that unfamiliar tune, the slight distraction in his eyes I dismissed as work stress, it all recontextualizes. These weren't signs of a contented man, but a man living a double life. And I, the trusting wife, was unwittingly funding the affair. The anger begins to smolder beneath the pain, a slow burn of resentment and a dawning, terrifying clarity. He isn't just cheating on me. He's stealing from me. The days stretch into a week, each one heavier than the last. The knowledge sits in my stomach like a stone, cold and indigestible. I see the necklace in its box on his nightstand every morning, a silent, glittering accusation. He hasn't moved it, hasn't mentioned it. It's as if he's daring me to ask, or perhaps he's so caught up in his deception he's simply forgotten its conspicuous placement. Or maybe, and this thought chills me to the bone, he thinks I'm too oblivious, too stupid to notice or question. The name Chloe is a constant echo in my mind. I find myself looking for her in crowds, wondering if every woman Mark glances at for a second too long is her. The paranoia is a corrosive acid, eating away at my peace of mind. I check the credit card statements daily now, an obsessive ritual. And then another charge. This time from a lingerie boutique. Not one I've ever shopped at. The amount isn't as staggering as the necklace, but it's the intent, the sheer, unadulterated gall of it, that makes me physically sick. He's outfitting his affair on my dime. Silk and lace for Chloe, bought with the security I worked so hard to build. My trust, once a boundless ocean, is now a barren desert. The normal routines of our life, the ones I once cherished, become unbearable. His touch makes my skin crawl. His laughter sounds hollow, mocking. I try to talk to my best friend, Sarah, but the words get stuck in my throat. How do I articulate this humiliation? How do I admit that the man I promised to spend my life with is treating me like a fool, a financial convenience? So, I carry the burden alone, the weight of it pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. I feel myself shrinking, becoming a ghost in my own home. The vibrant colors of my life are fading to gray. One evening, Mark comes home late, smelling faintly of a perfume that isn't mine. It's a subtle, floral scent, expensive and cloying. He claims he had a late meeting, a networking dinner. He's breezy, almost too cheerful. He doesn't notice the way I flinch when he tries to kiss me, or the way my smile doesn't reach my eyes. Or if he does, he doesn't care. Later that night, unable to sleep, I go through his wallet. Tucked behind his driver's license, I find a receipt. Dinner for two at a ridiculously expensive restaurant across town. Dated that very evening. And then another receipt. From Sophie's Fine Jewels again. My blood runs cold. I snatch up my phone, my fingers flying across the screen to the credit card app. There it is. Another charge. Not as large as the first, but still significant. Earrings this time? A bracelet? My mind conjures images of Chloe, adorned in glittering jewels, all paid for by me. The sheer, brazen arrogance of it is a physical blow. He's not even trying to be discreet anymore. It's like he's rubbing my face in it. The casual cruelty of his actions, the utter disregard for my feelings, for our vows, for the financial stability I've provided, it's staggering. It's no longer just about infidelity. This is a profound violation on every level. He's using me, exploiting my trust, my hard work, to fund his sordid little escapades. The pain is a sharp, jagged thing, but beneath it, something else is stirring. A cold, hard knot of anger. An anger so intense it almost feels calm. The tears that threaten are blinked back, replaced by a chilling resolve. He thinks I'm weak. He thinks I'm a doormat. He's about to find out just how wrong he is. This realization hits me with the force of a physical impact. I'm sitting on the edge of our bed, the early morning light casting long, mournful shadows across the room, his wallet open in my lap, the damning receipts clutched in my hand. And in that moment, the hurt, the confusion, the overwhelming sadness, they don't disappear, but they are suddenly joined by a different emotion, a fierce, protective rage. Not just for myself, but for the life I'd built, the trust I'd given so freely. He took my love and twisted it. He took my financial contribution, meant for us, and used it to betray me. This isn't just heartbreak. This is theft. Emotional, financial, spiritual theft. The thought crystallizes in my mind, sharp and clear. I am not going to just cry. I am not going to just leave. He has weaponized our shared finances against me. And that, I realize with a jolt that is almost electrifying, is a mistake he will live to regret. A tiny, bitter smile touches my lips. He thinks he's clever. He has no idea. The shift inside me is palpable. The fog of despair begins to lift, replaced by a steely determination. I'm no longer just a victim of his betrayal. I am the architect of its unraveling. My graphic design skills, my attention to detail, my organized nature, traits he often complimented in a vaguely condescending way, are now my greatest weapons. I start gathering evidence, meticulously, methodically. I download every credit card statement for the past year, highlighting each suspicious purchase. Sophie's fine jewels. The lingerie boutique. The expensive restaurants I've never been to. Dates, times, amounts. I cross-reference these with his calendar, his texts with Chloe, the late nights and unexplained absences. A pattern emerges, clear and undeniable. A timeline of deceit, paid for by my labor. I take screenshots of the texts, careful to include timestamps. I photograph the receipts. One particularly brave and nauseating afternoon when he's at a client meeting, go into his car and find a small, discarded gift bag from the lingerie store tucked under the passenger seat. Empty. The perfume still clings to the air. Each piece of evidence is a nail in the coffin of our marriage, but also a brick in the foundation of my escape. I learn about financial infidelity, about how assets are divided in a divorce, about what constitutes fraudulent use of a credit card. The term dissipation of marital assets becomes my new mantra. He's not just spending money, he's deliberately squandering funds that belong to both of us, for a purpose that actively harms our union. The anger fuels me, keeps me focused. There are moments, of course, when the weight of it all threatens to crush me. Late at night, the silence of the house amplifies my grief. I mourn the man I thought he was, the future I thought we had. But then morning comes, and with it, the cold light of reality, and I get back to work. I find a lawyer, a woman named Ms. Albright, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I lay out my evidence, my voice surprisingly steady. She listens patiently, her expression unreadable. When I'm finished, she looks at the pile of documents, the highlighted statements, the photographs. A small, almost imperceptible nod. He's been careless, she says, her voice devoid of emotion. And arrogant. That combination is often their downfall. Her words are a strange sort of comfort. I'm not crazy. I'm not imagining it. The system, the law, might actually be on my side. The crisis deepens as Mark becomes more brazen. It's as if, sensing no pushback, he believes he's invincible. The charges on my card escalate. A weekend trip to a boutique hotel in a nearby wine region, a place we'd always talked about visiting together, but never did. Now he's taking Chloe there on my money. The pain of that particular discovery is acute, a fresh twist of the knife. I see the charge, the Vineyard Inn, and I almost break. I picture them there, laughing, drinking wine, living the romantic getaway I dreamed of, all financed by my complicity, my silence. He comes home from this work conference with a tan and a relaxed air that makes my blood boil. He brings me a cheap bottle of wine from the region, a token gesture so insulting it's almost comical. "Thought you'd like this," he says, placing it on the kitchen counter with a self-satisfied smile. I want to smash the bottle against the wall. I want to scream. Instead, I just nod, my face a carefully constructed mask of neutrality. "Thanks." I manage, my voice flat. Inside, I'm a raging inferno. The apartment feels smaller, the air thicker with his lies. Every interaction is a performance. I'm exhausted by the charade, by the constant vigilance, by the sheer weight of his betrayal. There are days when I look in the mirror and barely recognize the hollow-eyed woman staring back at me. All seems lost sometimes. The mountain of deceit feels too high to climb, the battle too overwhelming. He still sleeps beside me, oblivious, his presence a suffocating reminder of everything I've lost, everything he's stolen. The intimacy of our shared bed is now a cruel mockery. I feel utterly alone, adrift in a sea of his making. His gaslighting attempts become more frequent when I dare to ask even vague questions about his schedule or our finances. "You're being paranoid," he'd say, with that concerned look that used to fool me. "Everything's fine. Work is just stressful." He makes me doubt my own sanity, even with the mountain of evidence I've collected. It's a desperate, dark time. The temptation to just confront him, to unleash the torrent of accusations and pain, is almost overwhelming. But Ms. Albright's voice echoes in my mind. Patience. We build our case. We choose our moment, and so I wait, gathering my strength, biding my time, even as everything inside me screams for release. The turning point comes not with a bang, but with a quiet, chilling realization. I'm reviewing the credit card agreement, the one for the card in my name that he's been so gleefully abusing. The fine print, usually ignored, now leaps out at me. The primary cardholder is responsible for all charges made to the account, and then the clauses about unauthorized use. If charges are made without the primary cardholder's permission, for purposes not agreed upon, I call Ms. Albright. The jewelry, I say, my voice tight. The trips, the lingerie. He bought them for her, using my card. I never authorized those specific expenditures. I never agreed to fund his affair. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Then, Ms. Albright's voice, cool and precise. That's not just dissipation of assets, my dear. That's potentially fraudulent use of a credit instrument. Or even theft, depending on how we frame it. A light bulb goes off in my head, blindingly bright. This isn't just about divorce court anymore. This could be something more. He didn't just betray me emotionally. He used my financial identity, my good credit, to commit these acts. He leveraged my trust into a line of credit for his mistress. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, but it's not entirely from fear. There's a spark of something else there, something cold and hard and powerful. What are you suggesting? I ask, my heart pounding. I'm suggesting, Ms. Albright says, a hint of something that might be grim satisfaction in her tone, that we explore all our options. He used your card to purchase goods for a third party, without your explicit consent for those specific purchases for that specific purpose. Those items, therefore, could be considered proceeds of fraudulent activity, proceeds of fraudulent activity. The words hang in the air. The jewelry, the clothes, all of it. Not just line items on a statement to be argued over in a divorce settlement, but actual, physical evidence of his misuse of my credit. The plan begins to form, a daring, audacious strategy. It's one thing to fight him for assets in a divorce. It's another thing entirely to watch him face consequences for actions that border on criminal. The decision solidifies within me, hard as diamond. He didn't just break my heart. He broke the terms of our financial agreements and, potentially, the law. He made his bed with Chloe. Now, he's going to lie in it, but not on my sheets, and certainly not on my dime. The last vestiges of the heartbroken wife fall away, replaced by someone he won't recognize. Someone who is done crying and ready to fight. The meticulous collection of evidence now takes on a new urgency, a sharper focus. It's not just for the divorce. It's for something more immediate, more impactful. Ms. Albright guides me. We document every single purchase he made for Chloe using my card. We get copies of store receipts where possible, cross-referencing them with the credit card statements that clearly show my name as the primary account holder. The sheer volume is sickening, but also strangely empowering. Each receipt, each statement, is another strand in the web I'm weaving. The necklace from Sophie's Fine Jewels. Then the earrings. Then a ridiculously expensive handbag from a designer boutique I'd only ever window shopped at. Clothes, lingerie, spa days, dinners at Michelin-starred restaurants, the weekend at the Vineyard Inn. He spared no expense when it came to lavishing gifts and experiences on Chloe, all while telling me we needed to be careful with money because his consultancy work was slow. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. Ms. Albright explains the process. We can report the unauthorized use of my credit card to the police. Given the amounts and the clear pattern of deception, they might investigate it as fraud or theft. The items he purchased for this woman with your card, she says, her voice calm but firm, They are evidence. And if a crime has been committed, the police can seize evidence seize. The word resonates deep within me. The thought of those expensive trinkets, symbols of his betrayal, being physically taken away, it's a dark satisfaction, but a satisfaction nonetheless. It's not about the monetary value anymore. It's about the principle. It's about him facing a consequence so direct, so tangible, that even his colossal ego can't ignore it. I spend a few more days making sure every detail is perfect, every document in order. My apartment, our once shared home, feels like a war room. I move with a quiet intensity, a woman on a mission. The grief is still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it's overlaid with a cold, clear anger that fuels my every action. He thinks he's won. He thinks he's gotten away with it. He sees my quiet demeanor, my continued presence, as weakness, as acceptance. He has no idea he's walking into a carefully laid trap. The day arrives. I've made an appointment at the local police precinct. Ms. Albright has advised me on what to say, how to present the information. I carry a meticulously organized binder, filled with statements, receipts, screenshots, the anatomy of his deceit. Walking into the police station feels surreal. The air smells of disinfectant and bureaucracy. I sit across from a detective, a tired-looking man named Miller, and I lay out my story. I stick to the facts, my voice surprisingly steady, betraying none of the emotional turmoil raging inside me. I explain about the credit card in my name, used for shared expenses. I explain how my husband, Mark, began making lavish purchases, not for me, not for our household, but for another woman. I show him the statements, the receipts from Sophie's fine jewels, the hotel bills, the charges from high-end boutiques. I show him the amounts, totaling tens of thousands of dollars. These purchases were not authorized by me for these purposes. I state clearly. He used my credit, without my consent, to fund an affair and lavish gifts on his mistress. Detective Miller listens, occasionally nodding, his eyes scanning the documents. He asks a few clarifying questions. The more I talk, the more the sheer audacity of Mark's actions becomes starkly clear, even to a seasoned detective accustomed to human failings. So, these items, he says, tapping a copy of the receipt for the diamond necklace. This Chloe person has them? I believe so, I reply. Or he has them, intending to give them to her. He's been systematically acquiring them over the past few months. Detective Miller leans back in his chair. Fraudulent use of a credit instrument is a serious offense, ma'am. Especially at this value, he assures me they will look into it. It's a small step, but it feels monumental. I walk out of the police station into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I have in months. The first move has been made. The game is afoot. Now, all I have to do is wait for his world to collide with the consequences of his actions. The confrontation I'd once dreaded now feels almost anticipated. Not with pleasure, but with a sense of grim necessity. I decide it will happen at home, in the space he defiled with his lies. I need him to see the full scope of what he's done, in the place where he promised to cherish me. A few days after my visit to the police station, Detective Miller calls. They've reviewed the evidence. They agree there's a strong case for fraudulent use of my credit card. They will be paying Mark a visit. And yes, they will be looking to recover the items purchased with my card as evidence. My heart gives a strange lurch. It's happening. That evening, I wait. Mark comes home, whistling that same irritatingly cheerful tune. He drops his briefcase by the door, loosens his tie. Rough day, he asks, oblivious. You could say that, I reply, my voice carefully neutral. He pours himself a drink, settles on the sofa, flicks on the TV. The calm before the storm. I let him get comfortable. I let the illusion of normalcy persist for a few more minutes. Then, I turn off the television. He looks up, annoyed. Hey, I was watching that, Mark. I begin, my voice low but carrying an unfamiliar weight. We need to talk. His eyes narrow slightly. He senses the shift in my tone, the steel in my voice he's never heard before. About what? He asks, a hint of defensiveness creeping in. About Chloe, I say. His face pales. Just a fraction, but I see it. The confident smirk wavers. Chloe? I don't know any Chloe. The lie is instant, reflexive. Pathetic. Don't you? I counter, my voice still quiet, but now laced with ice. Because I do. I know about the lunches. The late-night texts. I know about Sophie's fine jewels, Mark. I know about the necklace. The earrings. The handbag. I list them one by one, watching his composure crumble. His face goes from pale to ashen. He tries to bluster, to deny. You're crazy. You've been snooping. What is this? This, I say, my voice rising slightly, is about you using my credit card, the one in my name, to buy tens of thousands of dollars worth of gifts for your mistress. He stands up, agitation radiating off him. That's ridiculous. Those were business expenses. Misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? I echo, a harsh laugh escaping me. Was the lingerie a misunderstanding, Mark? Was the romantic weekend at the vineyard a business expense? His eyes dart around the room like a trapped animal looking for an escape route. He sputters, tries to formulate a defense, but the evidence is too overwhelming, my knowledge too precise. He knows he's caught. He collapses back onto the sofa, his bravado deflating like a punctured balloon. How did you? You were careless, Mark, I say, echoing Ms. Albright's words. And arrogant, and then, as if on cue, the doorbell rings. Mark looks up, startled, a flicker of fear in his eyes. Are you expecting someone? He asks. A cold smile touches my lips. You could say that. I open the door to find Detective Miller and another uniformed officer standing on our threshold. Mr. Mark Jennings? Detective Miller asks, his voice polite but firm. Mark stares, his mouth agape. Yes. We're here to discuss some financial irregularities concerning a credit card in the name of... Detective Miller glances at me, then back at Mark. Your wife. We have a warrant to search the premises for specific items believed to have been purchased fraudulently. Mark's face is a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. He looks from the police officers to me, his eyes wide with a mixture of anger and panic. You called the cops on me? He whispers, his voice hoarse. You used my credit to commit fraud, Mark. I reply, my voice clear and steady. Actions have consequences. The next hour is a blur of surreal, agonizing, yet strangely vindicating moments. Detective Miller explains the situation to Mark in calm, official tones, while the other officer begins a methodical search. Mark is oscillating between furious blustering and pathetic pleading. He denies everything, then tries to minimize it, then attempts to shift the blame onto me. She's just trying to cause trouble. This is a marital dispute, not a police matter. Detective Miller is unmoved. Sir, we have substantial evidence of unauthorized transactions amounting to grand larceny by fraudulent use of a credit instrument. We need to locate the items purchased. They start with his things. His closet, his briefcase. He protests, loudly at first, then his voice trails off as he realizes the futility of it. They find the blue velvet box with the diamond necklace still on his nightstand. He'd never even bothered to hide it properly, so confident was he in my obliviousness. Detective Miller opens it, compares it to the description on the receipt I provided. This is one of the items, he confirms, placing it into an evidence bag. Mark watches, his face ashen. That was a gift, he sputters. Purchased with whose money, sir? Miller asks dryly. Then they ask about the other items. The earrings, the handbag. Mark is evasive. I don't know what you're talking about. Perhaps your associate, Ms. Chloe Davies, would know. Detective Miller says, his gaze sharp. Mark flinches at the mention of her name. He realizes how thoroughly I've documented everything. The officers are polite, professional, but relentless. They are here to do a job. The humiliation radiates off Mark in waves. His carefully constructed world, his image of the successful consultant, the charming lover, is being dismantled piece by piece, right here, in our living room. He keeps shooting me looks of pure hatred, mixed with a bewildered sense of betrayal, as if I am the one who has wronged him. The irony is almost too much to bear. Then comes the moment I've been both dreading and perversely anticipating. Detective Miller asks Mark about the current location of the more recently purchased items, specifically the expensive handbag and some designer clothes that receipts indicate were bought for Chloe. Mark, cornered and panicking, finally admits that Chloe has them. He tries to argue they were gifts, that she shouldn't be involved. Detective Miller explains, patiently, that if items were purchased using fraudulent means, they are evidence, regardless of who currently possesses them. They would need to recover them. Mark's face crumples. This is a new level of humiliation for him, not just his wife knowing, not just the police in his home, but his mistress being dragged into his mess, her ill-gotten gains confiscated. The officers explain they will need to contact Ms. Davies. Mark tries to protest, but it's useless. They get Chloe's address from him. He gives it up with a defeated sigh, the fight draining out of him. The true climax, for me, isn't just his exposure, but what happens next. A short while later, after the officers have left to visit Chloe, Mark is a wreck. He's pacing the living room, running his hands through his hair. He's not yelling anymore. He's whimpering. And then he starts to cry. Not quiet, remorseful tears. He sobs. Loud, ugly, gasping sobs. He sinks onto the sofa, his head in his hands. They took the necklace, he chokes out. They're going to Chloe's, they'll take everything back. All that money gone, he looks up at me, his face streaked with tears, his eyes red and swollen. And in that moment, I see it clearly. He's not crying because he hurt me. He's not crying because he destroyed our marriage. He's not crying because he's ashamed of his deceit or his betrayal. He's crying for the things. For the money he spent, for the jewelry and clothes that are being seized as evidence. He's crying because his grand romantic gestures, funded by my hard work and his deception, are being undone, his status symbols reclaimed. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow, but instead of pain, there's a strange, cold clarity. This is who he is. Selfish. Materialistic. Devoid of any real remorse for the emotional devastation he's caused. His tears are for his lost purchases, not his lost wife. And in that moment, any lingering doubt, any shred of pity I might have felt for him, evaporates. All that's left is a vast, empty space where my love for him used to be, now filled with a chilling, profound understanding of his character. I watch him cry, my expression unreadable. The man I married is well and truly gone, if he ever existed at all. What's left is this pathetic, sobbing creature, mourning the loss of trinkets bought with stolen money. The satisfaction I feel is bitter, tinged with the sadness of what's been irrevocably broken, but it's satisfaction nonetheless. He thought he could play me for a fool. He thought he could have it all. He was wrong. The aftermath is messy, as expected. The police did indeed visit Chloe. I can only imagine her shock and humiliation as they explained why they were there, seizing the designer handbag, the expensive clothes, the other pieces of jewelry Mark had lavished upon her, all purchased with my credit card. The items become exhibits in the case against Mark for fraudulent use of a credit instrument. He faces legal charges, a public reckoning far beyond the private shame of a divorce. Our divorce proceedings run concurrently. Ms. Albright is a shark. With the criminal charges pending and the undeniable evidence of financial dissipation and fraud, Mark has very little leverage. He's a broken man, but not in the way one might hope. He's not broken by remorse for his actions towards me, but by the loss of his reputation, the legal fees, and the public nature of his disgrace. His consultancy business, built on an image of trustworthiness and success, suffers immensely. Word gets around. The story, in its sanitized, legalistic form, is one of financial impropriety. The juicier details, whispered among those who know us, paint a far more damning picture. I move out of the apartment, leaving behind the ghost of our marriage. I find a small place of my own, bright and airy, a blank canvas on which to paint a new life. There are days when the grief ambushes me, a sudden wave of sadness for the dreams that died. But those days become fewer. More often, I feel a sense of liberation, of strength I didn't know I possessed. I survived. More than that, I fought back. I took the tools of his betrayal, the credit card, the purchases, and turned them against him. He wanted to make me a victim, a silent, complicit funder of his deceit. Instead, I became the catalyst for his downfall. The legal process grinds on. Mark eventually pleads guilty to a lesser charge to avoid a more protracted and public trial, but the conviction is there, a permanent stain on his record. He's ordered to pay restitution for the full amount he fraudulently charged to my card. Whether I'll ever see all of that money is debatable, but it's the principle, the official acknowledgement of his wrongdoing, that matters more. Chloe, from what I hear, disappears from his life as quickly as the expensive gifts. Her loyalty, it seems, was as transactional as his affections. I don't feel any triumph in her discomfort, just a weary acknowledgement of her role in the sordid affair. She was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was Mark's character, his inherent selfishness and deceit. Sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet, I think about him crying on the sofa. Not for me, not for us, but for the lost baubles. It's a stark reminder of who he truly is, and a validation of my decision to reclaim my life, my finances, and my dignity. The healing is a slow process, like tending a garden after a devastating storm. But new shoots of hope are beginning to appear. I focus on my work, my friendships, on rediscovering the things that bring me joy. The experience has left scars, of course. Trust will be a harder commodity to trade in future. But it has also forged in me a resilience, a knowledge of my own strength. I learned that I am not defined by his betrayal, but by how I chose to respond to it. I chose to fight, not with hysteria or revenge in the traditional sense, but with intelligence, with evidence, with the system he thought he could manipulate. And in the end, that was a victory far more satisfying than any screaming match could ever have been. He cried over seized jewelry. I rebuilt my life. If this story hit close to home, perhaps a betrayal you've navigated or a moment where you found strength you didn't know you had, I'd love to hear your version in the comments. Thanks for being here with me through this. Subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life. Stories of resilience and the quiet, powerful ways we reclaim ourselves.